The Vanished, a movie about a family holiday going wrong and a daughter going missing. Don't worry, that's not a spoiler. I saw this movie was trending in the top 10 on Netflix in the UK and thought it would be something that had the potential to provide something that I've not seen in a while. So, is this movie any good? And how does it compare to other thriller movies that fall in the same category? Well, let's find out. Before I go ahead, make sure you go over to my Twitter, @BrainPilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next. So without further ado, I'm BrainPilot, and here is a review of the movie The Vanished. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers, so watch with caution. The story. The story follows a married couple and a young girl who are going on a trip in their RV around Thanksgiving, setting the environment for it to be completely empty due to the fact that everybody is celebrating a national holiday. Within minutes, we are hit with the fact that the daughter has gone missing. I like the fact that there wasn't much waiting around for the movie to kick off, and that within a matter of 10 minutes, the hunt for her was underway. We were led down the route of there being only a few suspects due to the fact that the site was essentially empty. There was the couple next door, the owner, and the groundskeeper. You could see from the off that the writers wanted us to think that it would be the groundskeeper. But it became quite apparent that it wouldn't be him due to the fact that it would have been very obvious. The story unfolds and we essentially see the parents, Wendy and Paul, commit murders as they go looking for their daughter. We see them kill the innocent camper, the two neighbors, and also the owner of the campsite. I wasn't 100% sure what happened with Miranda, to be honest. We saw Eric get killed by Paul, but Miranda seemed to just float off. The story was interesting to follow, and at points I did question what had actually happened to the girl. We saw the two leads essentially carry the story, and at points I must say that some things were predictable and rather unnecessary. For example, the fact that Paul had cheated in the past brought nothing to the story, and just felt like a reason for there to be some slight conflict in the marriage, because not everyone can have a happy marriage, can they? As the movie goes on and we start to see the gradual breakdown of the pair, it leads us to a final suspect, who's been relatively suspicious throughout the movie, but we have only seen little of him, and that's the owner of the campsite. We see that he has a soundproofed room out the back containing inappropriate images. He ends up tying up Wendy after she discovers it, and that provided a lot of moments where you were just shaking your head and saying get out, because in the real world you would have walked out and called the police. This leads to her being completely tied up, and after escaping, eventually leads to his death after she does evade. This then solidifies him as a suspect in the disappearance of the daughter Taylor, due to the inappropriate content that he had stored out the back. And that then brings us to the end of the movie. This is then where the whole movie takes a twist. It begins when Paul was prepared to throw out Taylor's things after, to us, was a mere matter of 5 days. I was quite surprised and confused by that. This is then when the reveal happens. Taylor never went missing. The stuff he was throwing out was from around 17 years ago. Their daughter actually drowned in an accident around 17 years ago, and the pair were deluded and making out like she was still alive. I have a couple of thoughts on this. I do like the twist for a number of reasons. When looking back, the signs for this ending was there. The fact that they are travelling on a national holiday when everyone tends to spend it with their family. They were most likely escaping a time that they would have once celebrated together. And also the fact that not a single person in the movie ever saw Taylor when they arrived at the campsite. The only people that we saw her communicate with was the mum and dad. It was a clever way of finishing off the movie, and I did quite like it, especially when they were tying it into different stages of grief and how you should not get stuck inside any of them. I do think that the owner turning out to be who he was a little unnecessary. I thought it was a little odd that the time they turn up and make up that their daughter has gone missing is the time that there is actually a criminal running the place. I think I would have found the ending more powerful without the dramatic scene, and we just found out about them in a more natural way, without the need of the owner to have been a criminal. The story focuses on grief, and I think at its core, it's got a deeper meaning instead of just being a movie where a girl goes missing. It's a story following two parents that are still, 17 years later, grieving the death of their daughter, and haven't, nor it seems like ever will, be able to move on. It's extremely sad. I think the story was gripping, and I was hooked to find out what happened to Taylor. It wasn't groundbreaking nor the best execution of a movie like this that I've seen before. I feel Prisoners is a similar style of movie to this, but the performance, story, and execution is far more gripping than what this is. The movie was shot and graded really nicely, and it was nice on the eye. It provided 2 hours of an interesting watch with a relatively satisfying ending. Normally, it's a bit cliche if things don't turn out to be real, but I feel it worked with this movie. The characters. Wendy. Wendy was one half of the leads in this movie. I thought her performance was executed quite well. There were many points where I didn't really like the character because it felt like she was going insane, and the acting didn't quite suit this performance. But overall, she was a good casting for the role. Paul. I feel like Paul was more of the main character out of the two, and the one that was more stable out of the pair. I feel we see this at the end with him vocalizing that he didn't want to do anything like that again, and that it was about time to move on. Paul led the movie well, and I enjoyed watching him on screen. The Sheriff. The Sheriff tends to be the character that you like to get behind, and I feel like I did with this movie. However, when compared to a movie like Prisoners, he's not a fraction of the detective that Jake Gyllenhaal was. We saw parts of the Sheriff's life that I felt showed why he was so connected to the case, but I don't feel as though his personal life was enough to be able to understand the character and be on side with him all of the time. Justin. Justin was an okay character. Again, a character that I feel didn't bring much to the story other than the fact that his sole intention was to be a character that we would assume was the kidnapper, due to the fact that he seemed slightly creepy at points and lacked emotions. The character served its role well, but it just felt too obvious for him to have taken Taylor. I would discuss Tom, the owner, but we saw in total at most a few lines from him. So although feeling like we need to discuss the character further, there isn't actually that much to talk about. Final thoughts. Overall, I think this movie provided a gripping 2 hours that did its job in leading you to want to see more. I did enjoy the multiple days that the story was followed over, and also the lengths that the couple were going to find their daughter. The twist at the end was satisfying, but it didn't provide a twist like other movies have done. I didn't get a gut-hitting "ah" moment. It was more of a moment that hit you and you realized it made sense. I'd recommend watching this movie. I've seen better, but I've definitely seen worse. So, there you have it. What I thought of the movie The Vanished. Did you enjoy the movie? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.